Okay. Hi, comrades. The last time I was here, I was just told now, was in 2012, 2013, and it was the very height of the revolution, and we were talking about the role of women in the revolution, the role of the working class, the strength of the movement in the streets. Of course, I think, needless to say, this revolutionary movement gave way to a dark and gloomy counter-revolution. I think if we can discuss what happened and why it happened and what sort of prospects we have now, that would be a worthy subject. Let me start from the end and then go backward a bit. El-Sisi, we have now, as the outcome of the revolution, the outcome of the failure and the defeat of the revolution, that we now call the first wave of the revolution. And I'm going to talk about this later. Why we don't think that the revolution has ended, but we definitely have to be sure that the first wave of the revolution, 2011, 2013, has faded and was defeated. So we have to come out with the lessons. What we have now is a military dictator who is 100 times more vicious and cruel and dictatorial than Hosni Mubarak, whom the revolution erupted against. We have now, in a sense, a ruling class that has been traumatized by a 2-year revolution where it seems that they were not very sure about their continued rule. So it's very clear now, with hindsight especially, to see that the ruling class saw more dangerous prospects of the revolutions in the streets than most of the revolutionaries themselves. When the revolutionaries in the streets were calling for bread, social justice, and freedom, the ruling classes in their mansions were saying, are they going to take all our wealth from us? When are they going to enter our mansions? Are they going to expropriate the factories and the companies? And they were actually collecting arms, personal weapons, in every mansion and every big house in Egypt, every palace. This same ruling class that was traumatized are taking it back on the masses now. They are making the masses, any opposition, the working class, the poor, pay the price of their trauma that is still going on. They are still afraid of the word revolution, although supposedly it's gone 2 years ago. But it seems they are very afraid. Why do I say that they are very afraid? It's because of the new laws that Sisi has brought into being in the last 2 years. There are laws now that essentially criminalize any sort of, not protest, any sort of deviation from what the government says. So, for example, now there's a big issue in Egypt about Sisi giving away a part of the Egyptian territory to the Saudi Arabia, obviously for money. And there's about 150 of our comrades and friends now in prison. They have been in prison over the last month, particularly because of protests regarding the sale of these islands to Saudi Arabia without referendum, without the parliament, without anything. It's just a deal like this. And one of the charges to one of the protesters is, listen to this charge, It is trying to influence, his charge is trying to influence the president so as to not exercise one of his rights. So if the Egyptian president now, according to law, sells off a bit of Egyptian territory and you say no, you are trying to influence him, and it's his right. So you go to prison. This is counter-revolution. This is not a normal dictatorship. This is a dictatorship that is there to quiet down all sorts of protest, all sorts of deviation. And it is a scared dictatorship. One of the things about revenge and the counter-revolution here is that I personally have worked under Mubarak for a few years in human rights, in a human rights organization. We used to record the violations and so on. And I can tell you, hands down, that violations under Sisi are almost 100 times worse than Mubarak, in quantity and in quality. In the last few months, actually this year, starting 2016, there have been something around 50 people who died in police stations. We're not talking about prisons. We're not talking about prisons nor places where they take them to torture them. No, it's the police station still, the front door of the security apparatus. 50 died there. And of course, every time they say they died out of, what did they say? Something in the circulatory system went wrong. Okay? All of them. So young people in their 20s, old people, they go into the police stations and they die out of something wrong with the circulatory system. Why are they being so vicious? This is not the Mubarak times. Because the relationship between the state security apparatus and the people, the masses, of course, it needless to say that among those getting arrested and dying in police stations out of circulatory failure, they are not of the haute bourgeoisie, they are all poor people of the opposition. Why? Because the security apparatus in Egypt has been traumatized and they have been defeated by the masses, and it was a shock that until now they cannot get over it. So they want to, the more they kill, the more they torture, the more they arrest, the more at least they think or hope to get reassured in their power again. This is a security apparatus that is not sure of its power, yet it's flaunting its power. It's saying, I can kill you, I'm killing you, and I'm going to lie about your death and sometimes, actually it happened often, those guys who died with circulatory system failures, when their families went to collect their bodies, they didn't find tongues, they didn't find eyes, and they were forced to sign affidavits saying our son has committed suicide. Why? I'll tell you why. Because on the 28th of January 2011, and this date is still remembered and it's still living with us and with the state, with all the security apparatuses. You just say the 28th of January and they will know what they mean. On the 28th of January 2011, the biggest and strongest and most heavily armed police and paramilitary police and anti-riot police and state security police in the Middle East were beaten to pulp by the masses in half a day. In half a day. It's not even, it didn't even go on for 3 months of battles. The revolution started with demonstrations on the 25th of January. 26th and the 25th they killed people, of course, as you expect. So organizers decided that the 28th, the first Friday, it was a Friday, that's why it's the day of assembly, is called a day of anger. And on that day of anger, all the police stations in Egypt were burnt. On that day of anger, fourth day of the revolution, since then, all police officers disappeared for 2 years on the streets. We didn't have a single police officer in Egypt for 2 years. You don't see them. They are not there. They are in somewhere. It turned out later that, of course, they came back with vengeance, came back with stronger gas, came back with stronger tasers, came back with stronger, and so on. But they couldn't show their faces for 2 years. And that's why, with the counter-revolution, now they are showing their faces and saying, do you think, and they say it explicitly, and some people, after they get out, they tell us, do you think that you can do the 28th again? That tells you something. That tells you about the fear that was beaten in their hearts by the revolution. This is not only the security apparatus, it's the rich who until now are still sending their money abroad. Until now, that was the first thing they did, the Egyptian bourgeoisie in the revolution. Send your money abroad. Of course, it's not their money, but anyway, send the Egyptian money abroad. They are still doing this, and anyway, so you have this. Again, vengeance by the judiciary. This is amazing, and this is very important because of many things. The judiciary now, during Mubarak's time and during what is called the normal goings-on of capitalist systems, the judiciary is supposed to be above politics, right? To be objective, to be neutral. And under Mubarak, it was at least touted to be so. Mubarak used to use the judiciary to get something and say, I cannot do anything about it. It's a judge rule. What do I do? I'm only a president. Fine? No. Now, it's a phenomenon known. It went into the parlance of everybody. Now it's called the ruling by phone call. So the judge waits, or the state security prosecutor waits and lets you wait until the phone rings. Yes, okay. 10 years, 5 years, and so on. There is no more semblance of neutrality. There is no more, and of course, we as Marxists, we say, of course, this is cruel, inhumane, dictatorial, but on the other hand, it pops this myth of the neutrality of the judiciary. So, in the next uprising, in the next wave of the revolution, I'm sure that we won't hear again the calls for sending the regime officials and the police perpetrators and so on to be brought to trial in front of our beloved, neutral, and objective judiciary, because that was one of the one of the salient mistakes by the 25th of January revolution, is that it was so powerful, it was powerful enough to the extent that it made, and by the way, I think this is a very important point, so stay with me on this. It was so powerful, so scary to the ruling class, that it made the ruling class decide to put almost all of its leaders, political and economic leaders, in jail. Just to kind of keep their domination, their position, and so on. So that it kind of satisfies the revolution, at least for now, right? Including Hosni Mubarak, who of course was in jail, everybody knows that, including all the big names in the National Democratic Party, the leading party, including all the ministers, they were in jail, including big, huge businessmen who were known to be thieves, and they are thieves, were in jail. So you kind of, at some point after the revolution, and it's a function of the revolution, and the reflection of its strength, we had the political leaders of the system and the economic leaders of the systems who were more often than not the same people, right? Big business and the cabinet, of course, and the ruling party. Okay? All of them in jail. Why? So that capitalism itself keeps going on. But one of the weaknesses here was that most of the people participating in the revolution thought somehow that since they are in jail, since they are going to be tried, we have got rid of them. We got rid of them because it's very clear that they are criminals. It's very clear that they are thieves. It's very clear what Hosni Mubarak did. It's very clear that he gave the order on the day of anger of retorting by live ammunition. And on that day I mentioned, the day of anger, more than 850 people, almost 1,000 died of the revolutionaries. So the revolutionaries paid a certain price to break the arm of the police. They didn't, it wasn't a walk in the park. Who gave that order? Kill. Was the then president, Hosni Mubarak. So everybody thought, fine. But then, by now I can tell you, not a single one of them is in jail now. Not a single one. They didn't even, do one to just even to break the formula or to keep face or whatever. No, it's a counter message. Now, since there's no revolution anymore, everybody, all the police officers who killed people are out. Even now they are still doing this, but more with a vengeance. Sisi told some of his officers, and somebody, I don't know why, kind of makes sense, recorded it on the mobile and put it on the internet. It was a closed meeting. But in this closed meeting, he said to his officers, listen, if any of you kills anybody, don't be afraid. They won't go to trial. And this is true, and this happened in front of us now in the counter-revolution, so to say. So not only that they let out the officers who killed us in the revolution, no, in the counter-revolution now it's a carte blanche. Now it's kill. So for example, one of them, it's a very famous case, killed 37 political detainees in one go. He had them in a police car, and then he fired a couple of gas canisters in the police car and closed it and left them there for 1 hour, and then they died. This person was taken to trial, and he's now free because he didn't do anything wrong. And the judge said, because he didn't mean to kill them. Okay? We have a comrade, her name is Shayma Sabah, who in the 25th of January, in the anniversary of the revolution, with she's a member of the left-wing coalition. It's called the Popular Coalition, and they went outside the headquarters of their party and stood there and held some flowers. The anniversary of the revolution. Nothing. So a police officer on tape, we all saw that videotape, killed her like this. You know what happened to this police officer? Of course he went, okay, I mean everybody saw that. So he was taken to trial, and now he's free, scot-free, nothing happened, because as the judge said, he didn't mean to kill her. She was just too thin and too slim. So, yes. So the bullet went into her body and killed her, but if she had been stronger, she would have been all right. This is the type of vengeance that we have now, okay? And my point in telling you all of this is that this sort of vengeance is a reflection of how scared they were and still, and how strong the revolution was, and how traumatized the whole ruling class was by the revolution. And in all of this, we find lessons for the next upsurge, for the next revolution. Now, as it stands, with the beginning of, and I can maybe talk about this later in the questions when I talk about what happened under the Muslim Brothers government and how central the slaughter of Rab'a al-Adawiyya of the Muslim Brothers was and has been. I might be talking about this if I have time, but let me now focus on how things stand right now. At the beginning of Sisi's rule, he was considered at least a god. He was like so deified by his supporters, by millions of people on the streets. You couldn't talk badly about El-Sisi to your closest friends. He had the support of the majority of the working class. They definitely, almost 100% of the middle classes, and of course, zillion% of the ruling class, and the army, and the security, and even the regional powers and superpowers. So now, in 2 years of counter-revolution, his popularity has become so weak that when there were some demonstrations a couple of weeks ago, he went out on TV and said, "I am not afraid. I am not afraid." And he said it about 30 times in one speech, that he is not afraid of a very local and small, not even demonstration, it was a protest, they were in their place. Now he's getting very obscene nicknames that Hosni Mubarak was never able to get in 30 years of dictatorship. This one got them in 1 year or so. Now, more importantly, the working class is starting to stir. Because what and we can talk about this later, is that at the beginning of his rule, although it was clear to many people that it's a counter-revolution, it seems that the consensus among the working class was, let's give this guy a chance. Because they were exhausted from the revolution. 3 years of continuous struggle of all sorts. Demonstrations, sit-ins, fights with the army, not the police wasn't still there, with the army, fights against army dogs, trying to take over the factories and run them by themselves, self-administration of the working classes. There were certain examples here, and they were, of course, inspiring to others. So, fighting for dignified, as they called it, minimum wage, and so on, and fighting for freedom of association and trade unions, and they built more than 800 trade unions in 2 years. Independent trade unions were 4 at the first day of the revolution. By a couple of years later, there were 850 something. All of this, and yet they couldn't get anything substantial, nothing tangible. They didn't win anything, and that's part of why the whole revolution wasn't getting anything. So when somebody from the army came and said, now we're going to have a stable society, and I'm going to look after the poor and consider me a continuation of the revolution and so on, they bought into this. And thus, for the first 6 months of Sisi's rule, not a single strike. That same working class that was bringing Morsi down, the MB, the Muslim Brother president, bringing him down by, Morsi was brought down in June 2013. The numbers of strikes and protests in May 2013, so a month before, so just to tell you, was a world historic record. It was 2 protests an hour. Okay? And I remember at the time the director of security in Cairo was saying, I cannot deal with this. Nobody, no, there is no security apparatus that can deal with 2 protests an hour. what do you do? Okay? And more importantly, I remember a note, circular, by the Ministry of Labor, but they denied. They said, no, we didn't. Okay? That said that if this keeps on, we are going to have another revolution. So it's a revolution within the revolution. Imagine how scared they were now when you talk about the revolution within the revolution, but this time it's going to be a workers' revolution. Right? The strange thing is, this is May 2013, June, and then starting from July, for another 6 months, July is the coup, is the counter-revolution. No strikes, no protests, no demonstrations. Of course, this is a huge weakness. This is one of the main reasons of the defeat of the revolution. The working class did not put up resistance to the counter-revolution. They thought this might improve matters, and also they thought we haven't got anything. We are kind of demoralized. But more importantly, and this is, from my perspective, the main weakness of that wave of the revolution, is that there wasn't a political agency, there was a political party, revolutionary party, that can lead the working class, particularly, that towards putting struggle against the coup, to disseminate the awareness that against this idea of, oh, since it's the army is as the general consensus had it, at least not anymore, it's above politics. It's the real nationalist institution we have. It's the embodiment of the nation. And also, of course, it's a throwback, it was for the workers, it's a throwback to Nasser's time. Gamal Abdel Nasser, he was, of course, from the army, and he had a coup in 1952 against the king. And the workers until now still remember that he started the republic, and that he gave big reforms and big rights, actually, substantial, to the workers. But of course we know, as Marxists and leftists, that at the same time that he did this, he took away the working class's power of organization. No independent organization whatsoever, no politics except the regime politics whatsoever. Okay? So, but still they thought of, okay, another guy who's wearing the military fatigue, so it's Nasser's time now. So yeah, good, if we come out from this wave of the revolution with a Nasser type Arab socialist, because his ideology, Nasser, was Arab socialism. So Arab socialism, so fine, I think it's good to have as a, so in the muddled consciousness of the masses in 2013, because the revolutionary parties or circles or groups weren't big enough, weren't influential enough, it was kind of an okay outcome. But this okay outcome was, in fact, a full counter-revolution. But now, from January to April, I have the number here, there have been 493 protests. So in the last, 3 months, in January, February, March, April, 493 protests. Not a lot, and nothing like the revolutionary time, and not, most of them not political, it's economic, regarding wages, regarding contracts, permanent contracts, and so on. But this after, in the context of the end of the second year of a counter-revolution tells you something. It's something very important. Among the protests, for example, that we had, and this is what I call the stirrings, is not only economic protests, we have had popular outbursts against exactly what I was telling you about, this cruelty of the state security apparatus in general. We call them police assistants. They are the lowest grade of police officers anyway. So these guys are now talking with their guns. A couple of months ago, one of them had a fight with a driver, and he shot. And that was in a working class area. And they captured him, and I think they gave him a good beating or something. I mean, he was hospitalized. And that's the interesting thing, because that wasn't the first time a police assistant killed somebody. But there's something happening stirring, is that they went by the thousands towards, of course, going by your thousands anywhere is already highly illegal, right? Because the new laws of the counter-revolution is that if you are more than 9 people even sitting in the same room, this is illegal. So, okay. So you always have to be, somebody standing outside and then he goes in and so on. Whatever you're doing. So, and of course, any demonstration in the street is illegal. Any march is highly illegal. So they went to the Directorate of Security, a march towards there, and they laid a cordon around it, and they started shouting against Assisi, and they started shouting against the police brutality, and you have them on tape, on videos. One of them said something brilliant. Brilliant. I mean, you can, as a revolutionary, you can't hope for anything more than this. Someone said, the real solution to what's happening now is that we cancel the police. That we don't have police anymore. We police ourselves. But what we are getting from the police of the state is only killings and suppression of some sort. And so you have this. You have also the stirrings in the National Union of Journalists now, who are having a sit-in in their union headquarters now. They have been for the last 10 days or so, because the police entered the premises of the union and arrested 2 journalists, again because they tried to influence Mr. President to do something. Okay, so this sparked a sit-in. This sparked the biggest general assembly of the journalists probably in their history, and they are now in a clash with actually the presidency, and because they said our demand is a formal apology by Assisi for entering the number 2, resignation of the Minister of Interior. Number 3, a law for the freedoms of and the protection of journalists. So now we have this. This, in the second year of the counter-revolution, tells you a lot about how precarious it is, and that how things, in a sense, I'm going to finish soon, things move so very quickly from a small incident immediately to calling for a revolution, calling for Sisi to go, calling for the resignation of the Minister of Interior, and so on. This happened here. Also, we had in the last couple of weeks demonstrations against the sell-off by Sisi of 2 Egyptian islands to the Saudi Arabian king. Particularly, he wanted to go back from his visit after throwing some billions at our regime, to go back with something substantial in his way. So he went back with two Egyptian islands, and people had, of course, there's a huge and widespread anger now towards Sisi, because again he kind of offended a big bulk of his own constituency, who wanted him because of the army, because of protect Egypt, protect the territorial integrity, protect the dignity, you know, all this middle class stuff. So now he's saying, well, if you give me some billions, I can give you a couple of islands. And incidentally, those islands were at the very heart of the 3 wars Egypt had with Israel. So it's just, you don't touch those. We went into 3 wars, and then the guy came and gave you some money and went back. And anyway, so those protests, for the first time, they were small, big in comparison to having nothing for the last 2 years. But again, they are very small by the standards we have seen before. But, and it was a fantastic moment that touched everybody. We had just rising high and moving around this protest, what we call the flag of the revolution. Again, and it was, of course, a tearsome moment, a tearful moment. It's the Egyptian flag with a picture of a very famous martyr in red and black, and it just went back, and people started chanting about revolution and so on. And this is what worries the ruling class, and this is what worries the state, and this is what gives hope to the revolutions. We have to be in for the long haul, of course. There's no revolution next month. Even if you have eruptions every now and then, yes, and they will keep coming. And the regime cannot keep, that's my opinion, cannot keep this clasp and grasp over everything for long. It will have to give some way. And of course, also, we have to learn and relearn the lessons and the mistakes of the revolution of 2011-2013, because there will be new waves and they will be much stronger and much wider. And in this context, and sitting with you comrades here, I also want to finish by reminding you of all our comrades in prison now, and reminding you that actually international solidarity makes a hell of a difference, makes a huge difference. It makes a difference with the regime. Yes, it does. I look bad outside. Why? Huh? But more importantly, much more importantly, it makes a huge difference with the people. When they kind of feel validated, they kind of feel, oh, we are not alone. They kind of feel that it's however much the Egyptian government and the Egyptian state would like to have us as a prison, we have brothers and sisters who are outside the window at least raising our names. Thank you very much.